Good evening, I'm Mika Miyashima.
And I'm Rick Kwan. New data shows an increased number of Hawaii's public school students will start the 2022 school year 2 or more grade levels behind.
That's according to the Department of Education Universal Screener data for elementary and middle schools across the state. It found that for fall of 2021, while older students perform a little better, the significant number of students were at least 1 grade level behind. Meanwhile, more than 40% of students in grades 6, 7, and 8 fell 2 or more grade levels behind. That was also the case for 38% of 5th graders across the state.
The data makes clear that we need to implement programs and services, as well as instructional strategies and supports that will accelerate learning, as well as provide supports and services to facilitate student success.
The data also shows that nearly 35% of students in grades 1 through 8 were at or above grade level in language arts, while 34% fell behind by 1 grade level. In math, just over 25% were at or above, but more than 40% fell behind. The Department of Education says it's working to provide students, their families, and school communities with more resources moving forward.
A federal grand jury is cracking down on the trafficking of girls and young women who were allegedly forced into sex under the threat of eternal damnation.
The shocking revelations all part of a Philippines-based church with ties to the islands. KITV4's Tom George went through that indictment. And Tom, this was an elaborate setup.
Yeah, that federal grand jury indictment comes after an investigation into an alleged scheme that spanned over 16 years in several cities across the globe, including right here in Hawaii. Behind this church in Waipahu, a dark secret hiding an alleged global sex trafficking ring. The leader of the Philippines-based Kingdom of Jesus Christ, Apollo Carion Quiboloy, claiming to be the Son of God, now part of a federal indictment, charged with bringing girls and women to the U.S. and forcing them into sex acts with church leaders, using religion and power as a threat.
You know, telling women that they would be eternally damned if they didn't have sex with a church leader was literally part of the knife at the throat to these victims.
Also charged his associate Felina Salinas, arrested in Kapolei, allegedly responsible for getting passports and visas for trafficking victims. Filipino community leader Amy Agbayani says this kind of immigration exploitation from the Philippines to Hawaii is common, and in cases like this, an elaborate scheme.
It's not that obvious to that they're doing this because they have sophisticated ways of getting documents and hiding what is happening, and then making sure that the victims are isolated and cannot complain.
While these charges welcome news for many, advocates worry it's far from the only case.
There's this kind of free-for-all environment for sex trafficking in Hawaii and labor trafficking that we don't talk about. From the data that I have, there's only been about 1 trafficker arrested per year.
Now, Felina Salinas, who was arrested from Kapolei, is due in federal court here on Oahu tomorrow. Meanwhile, the alleged mastermind Quiboloy is still believed to be in the Philippines right now. He also owns properties in Kapolei and Las Vegas. Tom George, KITV4 Island News.